Olá, sejam bem-vindos ao Campo Diplomático, um espaço onde as relações internacionais, o comércio exterior e o agronegócio convergem. Hoje nós vamos falar sobre o Azerbaijão e as relações com o Brasil, além disso, a COP29, Conferência das Partes das Nações Unidas para a Mudança do Clima, que será realizada na capital do Azerbaijão, Baku, em novembro deste ano. Para falar sobre este assunto, eu convoquei o embaixador Rashad Novruz, que está no Brasil há 2 anos e vem aqui no nosso estúdio para falar sobre tantos assuntos importantes. Embaixador, thank you so much for arriving here, being able to give us this wonderful interview and informing us about our relations.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this hospitality, welcome of this brilliant idea, which comes at the very right time ahead of COP29 in Baku. Of course, thank you, Gabrielle, for making it possible for me to be here and speak to your audience. And of course, my best regards to the leadership and director of your very good media platform. I'll try to do my best. Thank you.
No, that's fine. I'm sure you give us the most important information. That's what matters. Well, let's go into the topics. The most important events, I think, of this year regarding the climate change will be held in Baku in November this year, between 11th and the 24th of November. And there's a lot of expectations regarding what will be discussed, especially with regards to the resolutions that will come up from this event, with all the discussions, given the fact that the world has seen ever more climate disasters happening in the world in various places. Things that have shocked scientists who proclaim that what has been happening today was expected to happen in 30 to 50 years. What are your expectations between the people that will be present in Baku, what will be discussed, and the priorities of the Azerbaijan government?
Thank you. Well, in a nutshell, the expectations are really big. Especially now, I understand for your audience why, because for people in Brazil, both the government, the politicians, the business, the industry, and society at large, we call civil society. Why? Because Brazil is going to have COP30 in Belém right after our COP in Baku. So actually, there is not much time left for Brazil to host COP30. Now, before I start, Gabriel, if I may just tell you where Azerbaijan and my government stands ahead of COP29. Look, when some other countries, Egypt, for example, UAE with COP28, now Brazil COP30, they knew ahead of, the announcements were made 3.5 years ago. So they've had enough time to prepare themselves, properly and politically, and gather the international attention without much of a, I would say, frustration, or without much of resources, probably, I could say. Now, what happened to Azerbaijan, my country, is that only in the last days of COP28 in Dubai last year, there was an announcement, decision made. And we won the trust, the global trust, the confidence by the international community to host COP29 in Baku. And now we only have had, 10 months to prepare ourselves and mobilize all our resources, energy, financial, institutional, administrative, and speak to the international media and international actors, state actors, governments, and non-state actors, and civil society and businesses, capitals. So the priority of our COP29 presidency is the following. First, the topic speaks for itself. Now, when you gather people around the idea of climate change, this is quite an ambitious objective in itself. When you add to that finance, it becomes probably way too ambitious, but way too glorious, way too honorable, but a very difficult mission, right? Now, the theme of our COP29 presidency is climate finance. Now, Azerbaijan, with our presidency of COP29, we want the world community, state actors and non-state actors alike, to remember a very important thing about funds. There are several funds which were established exactly to give finance to the developing nations and to business, to farmers, for example, including it. So, but we, with our presidency, we're trying to explain to the world, and we will do so proudly in Azerbaijan, vocally, that it's not about availability of funds, because they're available. They're there. They've been there for many years, several years, some few years. We're going to argue about the accessibility of those funds. So are they accessible? Are they available? Yes, they are. But are they accessible for everybody? No. So, and we go very transparent, inclusive, and ambitious about this topic. And we will be very vocal in Baku about it. Now, point number two. In the world of climate change, in negotiators, there is this terminology, there is this newly quantified collective goals. Yeah? So, yes, we have Paris Agreement. Yes, there are calls to implement and stick to the word and implement, take ahead the agenda, even before COP30 in Belém, on mitigation, adaptation, yeah, for example, loss and damages. Yeah. But what is very important for our presidency is to garner the support of our partners and gather the consensus about newly quantified collective goals. Because we think that we don't want to be making a choice between the developing world. But let's presume that some big part of developing world includes, for example, less developed countries, landlocked countries, right?
Exactly.
Or small island countries seats. Yeah. So, since the announcement since our announcement of COP29, and since the first days of building the concept, and until now, we have had our government, our negotiating team, basically invested a political and financial resource to go out, travel around the world, and speak to as more than 150, probably even more, partners. So we've had, within less than 8 months, even 7-8 months, more than 150 consultations.
But would these be private or public sector? Are we talking about states or also companies?
Most of that, of course, had the nature of public and institutional stakeholdership, right?
Okay.
But, for example, our team from government also included in our agenda, importantly, talking to the capital markets.
Right.
Because of the topic of our presidency of COP29. So, of course, you have to talk to businesses and to the industries. Right. You have to take aboard their concerns or go explain to them our objective and to tap into their potential. Are they ready to speak in the same voice as us or others or not?
Well, I mean, one of the contrasting narratives that also are predominant in this discussion is that many of the countries that have the available funds are not prioritizing exactly the energy transfer initiatives to decarbonize states, companies, different types of sectors in the world. One of the critics of the COP28 initiative was exactly that, Dubai would not endorse such, let's say, necessary narratives, urgent narratives, in order to really create the types of funds, and that was necessary for that developed countries would actually go into this initiative, put the money in order to make a world collaboration, a global collaboration for energy transfer and decarbonization. Another critic was that pretty much the petrol and gas producing states would need to have a say and actually an ambitious goal into actually financing this type of initiative. Is Azerbaijan willing to put the money, to put the funds to decarbonizing, given the fact that most of your exports are petroleum and natural gas?
No, thank you. That's a million question, as they say. Look, quite in an abstract, yes. I'll start from the last part of your question. Okay. Yes, our government is very keen to do so, to master the leadership and to take the stewardship of this initiative. One of which exactly is to set up a new facility. But the facility which will have been created and will not have stayed only on the paper. Now, the mechanism of that facility is the bold idea, the bold decision with us is that we want to create the facility which will, the contributors to which will be the oil, petroleum producing countries and first time ever corporations, companies. Now, so both the government, state actors and the business, the industry. Now, this facility will have been made its budget because of asset formation of these producing, extractive industries, producing petroleum producing companies. But the beneficiaries of those funds would be exactly the actors, I would say disadvantaged businesses,
yes,
people from the developing world. What I mean, well, the South, you can call it.
The global South.
The global South, we call it. Yeah, and that includes also small developing countries. It includes the less developed countries. And there are many of them, as you know. So this is a very bold move, a first time ever. Now, Egypt is a petroleum producer, UAE is petroleum producer, Azerbaijan is petroleum producer. Next COP host, Brazil, it produces almost 3 times, well, 2.5, 3 times more petroleum than Azerbaijan does now. But we have come front and said, oh, those critics should understand that if we mean the thing, we will deliver on this. And we exactly announced that we will be the first one to pay into that fund, to create that facility. And I hope it will have been picked ambitiously also by other petroleum countries and corporations. Oh, exactly. Why? Because the business, the industry should be in there with governments alike in this initiative. Now, about the critics, well, look, we are very transparent, inclusive, and receptive to the criticism since the first days when decision was announced that COP29 will be in Baku. We understand perfectly we don't live in a world, an ideal world, right? So we are receptive and and very vocal to those people who are. We are not just hearing and tossing things over. We work with the elements of criticism. For example, why Azerbaijan? Well, I'll tell you, we also work on green agenda. It's to show to the world the leadership in sub-regional, regionally, right? But we're not that global actor, for example, even Brazil. Let me be very modest and humble on this, right? So we do not have this aggressive mode of ambition to show to the world, oh, that we can do so much, and we cannot actually, we don't have skill set for that, or we don't have resources for that. We do. Now, the most important thing is to understand that you have to give the voice, as you rightly mentioned the question, and the place, and probably maybe even priority to also petroleum producing countries. Why? Because they are going to they're transforming themselves from within. So it's a mindset, it's business, it's a horizontality, it's verticality of its industries, its economy. Azerbaijan has started already a long time ago diversifying away from oil. Well, we're increasingly a natural gas supplier, for example, to Europe as well, right? And neighbor countries.
Ao retornar, falaremos mais sobre os acordos entre o Brasil e o Azerbaijão voltados à agricultura e mais sobre a transferência de energia. O Campo Diplomático volta em instantes. Olá, o Campo Diplomático está de volta. Hoje nós estamos falando sobre as relações bilaterais e também as relações em agricultura e transferência de energia com o Azerbaijão. Hoje eu recebo o embaixador aqui no Brasil, Rashad Novruz. Embaixador, thank you again for your presence here in our program. We were talking about energy transfer, about COP29 ambitions. Just to wrap up the portion about energy transfer, Azerbaijan has been investing in making itself a hub, a regional hub, in order to export mainly natural gas to southern Europe. It's one of the largest or the largest supplier of natural gas to Italy today. You spoke about the recently signed accord on exportations of gas to Serbia. And this is a joint venture task force between several countries, Georgia, Romania, Hungary, Azerbaijan, and other countries around, which are also natural gas producers. But there's a distinction. Azerbaijan has made itself an interesting place to invest in. Could you talk a little bit about why that is?
Well, thank you, Gabriel, again. Thank you so much. Good to be here. Yes, we are regarded already about at least a decade already as a new Eurasian hub, new Eurasian commercial trade hub. And of course, oil and gas being commodities, it also is a matter of trade. It's a matter of trade and investment cluster. How do we reposition ourselves in this? Because for the exterior world, our region, not Azerbaijan exactly probably, but the surrounding, the neighbors and the neighbors and the neighbors, macro-regional speaking, political speaking, people like to write and speak about geopolitics, you know. And of course, if you put Azerbaijan on a map, and you can take it out, of course, from the map, of course, the region has dynamics, geopolitically speaking. We prefer to put things in a different context, geo-economic.
Right.
Because our leadership and our country has had a skill set and believe that we have to treat issues and matters and policies and our neighbors, of course, and the neighbors on the neighbors with a strategic foresight. For example, our foreign policy, if just in two words, if I may, sovereignty and pragmatism. So if our national political commercial interest would take us speaking to a very difficult partner, we will speak to the difficult partner and we will sign the deal. So it's taking time, of course. But this is Azerbaijan. We're very pragmatic. We're a very good project-oriented and export-oriented country.
Fantastic.
Now, we are also very well situated logistically, which can give us advantage to showcase to the region and to the world that we have trade and transit and logistical capacity to even become bigger, not only for ourselves, for our ambition, but also to the neighbors.
Right.
Because you cannot build the regional politics or even big businesses, strategic pipelines, infrastructure project in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And nobody exists in a vacuum. So we sign the accords and we treat them strategically with a political will, political determination, but in a very soft, pragmatic, practical environment. We create the environment conducive for foreign investors, for companies from logistics, business industry, who are becoming more and more interested in Azerbaijan as a hub, commercial logistical hub between Asia, and I mean Southeast Asia, the West Asia, China, and to Europe, if you look on this side of the map. We, of course, have multimodal transportation strategies. We have trade facilitation mechanisms which allow the single window operations in the customs procedures. We have created, together with our neighbors, Kazakhstan, Georgia, and Turkey, a consortia, so to speak, logistics, regional by international logistics trade consortium company. Because it's one thing when, for example, a Brazilian supplier or logistics company or the marketer of goods to Asia comes and speaks with every country, and in the country with 2-3 government officials, or one comes, but it's one when Brazilian actor comes and speaks, a business comes and speaks, is only one and gets a one voice.
How is our relations now with regard to agriculture? Recently, Brazil hosted the GT for the agricultural ministers during the G20 forum, where agricultural ministers from the G20 came to Mato Grosso State to reunite and talk about future initiatives. And as well, Azerbaijan's agriculture minister was present. And you signed a memorandum of understanding with regards to cooperation for livestock production, animal health. There was regenerative agriculture. What is the panorama of this memorandum of understanding, and what are your expectations?
Indeed. For the first time ever in the history of our relations, political and economic, we had the visit of our Minister of Agriculture to Brazil. Now, it came, of course, as a very good response to the visit of the executive secretary, Vice Minister Roberto Perosa, to Azerbaijan earlier this year, in the beginning of spring, where he basically tried to tap into potential of what we as countries can signal to each other to kick off with this partnership, and tap into potential of promoting our produce, in each other's markets or regional markets. We understand that Brazil is a very important, not only food producer, but also important global player in the issue of food security in the world. So this should be critical to understand. So we're looking at Brazil both commercially as a trade partner, but also, if I were to say so, politically importantly, because Brazil feeds probably 1.5 billion population of the world itself alone. Now, the visit of our minister here was part, of course, of and we're very grateful to Brazilian presidents of G20, that they invited Azerbaijan to this meeting. Now, where our minister, of course, spoke to the community, constituency of G20 ministers, first, about, of course, the priorities of our agricultural sector reforms, especially how we're trying to regenerate the lands, rehabilitate the lands that have not been used so far because of other political security reasons for 30 years. So much we're doing, and how much actually the world should look at Azerbaijan and invest as well. Now, his second important point in his speech and visit here was, of course, to speak about COP29, how climate change and agriculture sector go intact. Because
definitely.
I would be probably, as you would know, I can say about many things, how a COP29, for example, also touches upon critical element of agriculture sector. One of those 14 initiatives that we have announced as COP29 presidency, exactly, I believe it's initiative number 10. It's called Harmonia for Resilience, for climate change resilience. Why? The name is catchy, Harmonia. But because we looked at, and this is actually a joint initiative, it's our idea, but it was jointly initiated and put on paper with FAO.
Perfect.
Because it addresses the purpose objective of this initiative is climate resilience, but how to empower farmers, small, medium farmers, what challenges they have, what problems they have, and how climate change actually influences stronger and more, has an impact on them because they're less empowered, so to speak.
And for Azerbaijan as well, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's also important to say that you have more than 30 to 40% of the population that also is employed through the agricultural sector. A country with 9 climatic zones, is that right? So for you, resilience for climate change is a day-to-day factor, is it not?
It is, Gabriel, exactly. In fact, our landscape is pretty much mountainous, but also we have hillsides, and we have nice territories. We have lost the terroir, because we have faced a lot of ecocide and for example, the environmental security issues, water scarcity, as we speak. But we're trying to rehabilitate, and we're investing a huge amount of money, our sovereign wealth, to rehabilitate, recover those lands now, right? Now, and we're bringing back the refugees, because refugees are the farmers, right? Those small family farmers, So we are bringing back this part of the country back into our economy and the region. Now, the minister, during his visit here, as you said, signed an MOU with Brazilian colleague, Mr. Favreau. Now, this is only the first step. Why? Because, to be honest, we don't know each other. The purpose is to get to know each other, establish probably a working group, ad hoc working group, or the task force expertise, a small team, Start with 2-3 priorities, because we cannot have 10 priorities. Start with 2 for this and next year. Then move to other 2 or 3 in the years to come. Because Brazil can offer a lot. Azerbaijan is also able to offer a lot from its standpoint in the region. Now, it concerns the MOU, of course, relates to our cooperation and how we can start partnership as in between the governments and as well as B2B, business to businesses,
right,
or government to the business. Now, in subfields like you mentioned, livestock, of course, cultivation of plants, because we believe that, and also one very important thing is that during the visit, our minister had a very interactive and interesting meeting with Embrapa, with president of Embrapa. Now, Embrapa is much also about innovation, technology, and science.
Biotechnology, especially.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are also looking at Brazil, at the skill set of Brazil and experience, and try to see where we can make a convergence of our interests and maybe open a new chapter about innovation, technology, and where we can probably take the skill set and experience of Embrapa to our part of the region,
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Well, I think it was a good opportunity to get to know the different size dynamics of what is possible, both in business and governmental relations with Azerbaijan, a country that many Brazilians may not know of, but is increasingly having a more important role in geopolitics in the region, in energy production. And thank you so much for your presence here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bom, o Campo Diplomático encerra aqui. Espero que vocês gostaram de aprender um pouco sobre este país, sobre a COP29, que será realizada na capital Baku em novembro. Nós ficamos por aqui e se quiser assistir esse, entre outros programas do canal AgroMais, acesse o nosso canal no YouTube, @AgroMaisTV. Eu fico por aqui e até a próxima.